lift up the barbecue. So it means, for instance, this at the moment is set up for left-handed. I'm actually right-handed, but I've got a lot of students that are left-handed. You just check, slow, 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 let it settle, then just tiptoe under it. Slowly turn. So if I want to walk that way, depending which way I was facing, that need to be right or left. So right and left's not good. So if I want to walk that way, I step the wrong way, the wing takes me there. If I want to stop going that way, step the wrong way, the wing takes me clear. If I want to go forwards and it's quite windy, I step back and then follow the wing. If I don't want to launch, I step forwards and then follow the wing. Just like balancing a sweeping brush on the palm of your hand, you're the handle. The lazier you are, the easier this is. Other thing I spend a lot of time with students is telling them to stop looking at the wing. Because people look at the wing and then they do the wrong thing. See that? No, they actually literally do the wrong thing. If they look at the wing, the brain tells them to do something that's exactly the wrong thing. I don't do anything dangerous. So from there, just tiptoe, tiptoe, tiptoe. Let it do the work. Launching! Away you go. That easy. Favourite sights. Particularly, as is usual these days, you can let the money go fuel. It's only 10 miles. So I didn't have any students out this weekend, so I can actually, because I could call a bit of traffic and live next to the airport. But yeah, we could legally fly. Well, the wing flies at about 25 miles an hour. So if you're going downwind, you can fly a lot faster. Another paraglider up there. So if you look up towards King's Seat, there's either another paraglider or a hot air balloon. Yep. So it's either a hot air balloon or there's paragliders up at King's Seat. You see it? I think it's probably the hot air balloon. Just to the right, the King's Seat in the gap between that and the gask.
So in the second, as a pop up the wing, there's
Grey
another wee
globe,
thermal
fairly
comes through, and you can just catch on the camera. You'll see the left hand side of the wing, probably about 40%, and the second is going to fold. So there. Right, so although I've lost half the wing, this is much easier in the air, far easier to control in the air. But anyway, just flying the half, so just a tiny bit of right brake. Now this actual wing I'm flying today is 24 years old, and you could call it a bit of a delayed recovery. So it doesn't exactly pop out the way current wings do. But rather than dropping it down, say just stand there, flying the half, and then a slow pump and release, and a slow pump and release. So it's just dipping the trailing edge down on the left hand wing and letting it slowly push out the wing, and then the leading edge slowly opens out. So, nice and easy, as I say. Always the same thing whether you're in the air or on the ground. Fly the half, basically ignore the clap side. Main thing is keep flying.
Shake!
We've just got a nice bit of top up lift here. It's not exactly rocketing thermals, but there's nice smooth bubbles of air coming up. Overall air temperature is pretty cold today. I mean, I didn't bother with gloves, but I certainly did put on an extra jacket and a somewhat bright lined over trousers. So unlike earlier on when it really was 360 up and nicely over the mask going over the back, there's just enough lift here, nicely out in the front, just put around a gentle 360.
Yeehaw!
So mostly controlled with the harness. This wing is not exactly the most responsive in the world, so as you can see there I've got on a reasonable amount of brake handle being about level with the carabiners at its maximum there, but it's still predominantly harness control. And the guys had been asking me earlier on where I tended to land and take off from, and actually often take off from the Trig Point, and here there's just enough lift to come in easily, bring it round and just drop down. So it's great if you're dropping back to the pickup for a snack or some juice. So while on a really good lifty day you can literally launch from the Trig Point and just glide forward and straight over the fence, today being much lighter conditions, using fourth force. So I'm adding a little bit of thrust to just do a little bunny hop, and there's the dive and touchdown. So a wee bit fourth force, touch and go, straight into the beat. So at this time of day, when the sun is much more round to the right hand side of the hill, you've got all the flat land, heathery hilltop. So if I'm going for a bit bigger flying, it's often well worth cutting over the back, over the top of the towers. And basically, although it's the top of the hill, it sounds a bit odd to talk about flat land flying at the top of the hill. Heading over the back with the sun round at that angle, you can actually get the best lift. You can really sort of core around, get some good height up. Your other alternative, and we do this a lot with the students at this particular site, is you get them to go out front, and again you're relying on the heat from earlier on in the day down in the valley where there's a lot less wind and you can get up high. But obviously the big advantage of that is when I'm driving a retrieve, where you've got the pickup up on the top of the hill where we're allowed to go, and you're on your own. You don't really want to go down. You're better landing on the flat land, as it were, on the top of the hill, and then it's just a few minute walk or landed back on the face. So a lot depends on who's out flying when we're doing this sort of thing. There, I was going to come in for land, a wee bit lift comes in, so instead of that I go around. Now wings, like in my favourite Vertex, no problem at all, you can easily degrade the glide and down. But well, this is a 24-year-old wing, it's a relatively low rated wing and it's quite floaty. So that's the key, don't fixate on landing. If you get the wee bit lift when you weren't expecting it, or just too much of a slope there, whatever, simply ease off the brakes and go around. You can always fly down to the bottom and walk up, much safer than stalling it in. So the only time we fly at the so-called sort of minimum sink is basically when you want to degrade the glide and land. Usually landing in the lift. The rest of the time you want to be flying 90% harness control, maybe only 10% on the brakes. And as you can see there, a couple of extra bits of beats, nice easy landing. So the key is never force your landing. You get lift, go around. Okay, now a bit you see a lot in the videos, checking the airspace. Now despite the fact I know there's no other gliders up here and I am paying attention all the time, looking round, also making sure that I know where members of the public are, parked vehicles, fixed object, movable objects, all that sort of thing. You've got to be constantly, right from the start, from day one, and then all the way through your flying career, you want to check the airspace. One of the massive issues we've seen over the last 20 years with retraining students is they simply have never been taught to be safe pilots. The number of pilots that might come with even 20 hours airtime, 30 hours airtime, and they're just not looking around, they're not checking the turns. So it's not too surprising that there's the number of mid-air collisions, accidents, injuries and unfortunately deaths that we see in the UK amongst the normal lot in the sport. You've got to make sure right from the start, safe regression, that you have the habit of check the airspace. Always be looking out for everybody else. We choose to do this. Members of the public do not choose to be hit by paraglider pilots that simply don't have the skill set, and even worse, are not paying attention. Looking round is not hard to learn to do. It's not like the skill required to actually control and fly the glider. But you need to get the training for this from day one. So if you're taught to fly and there's no one else in the air, it's only one EP student at a time, and you've got no habit from day one of checking your airspace. Basically you're being taught to be a risk to other people and to have an accident. Doesn't mean you individually will have an accident, but you're certainly increasing the risks. Get good training. Don't train in a way that causes the accidents, injuries and deaths that the sport's seen over the last quarter of a century. point to consider for those that are actually watching the shadow when I'm coming in close on here is that with students I'd be on the radio and emphasising to them anytime they're coming in low, get your undercarriage down. Now with over 10,000 hours flying in the last 19 and a bit years, coming very close to 20 years now, with the number of hours I've flown, then clearly I can judge it. I can fly in low like that, I can keep the undercarriage retracted. But any time essentially you're within, however you like to think of it, say 5 metres, 20 odd, 30 feet, whatever number you feel is suitable, particularly for the ground cover. If it was rocky, higher. If it's grassy like this with the odd rock and boulder, it could be lower. But essentially any time you're coming in low, get into the habit of get the undercarriage down, just in case you need to do touch and go, in case you get that little bit sink. Also it puts you in the position for parachute landing fall, PLF. So knees bent, legs together, that type of thing. And as your experience level picks up, you need to do that less and less. But initially you want to make sure anytime you're coming in low, you've got your legs ready for touch and goes or for landings.